Hello children, in this video I will be teaching you the sliding filament theory, the widely accepted theory on muscle contraction. Before going into the details of the sliding filament theory, let us analyze the details of a muscle fiber or the muscle cell. We have learnt in 10th or in a previous lesson, we have learned the structure of a muscle fiber. It is elongated, unbranched, multinucleated, and like any other cell, it is surrounded by a plasma membrane, and here there is a specific name for this plasma membrane. It is called the sarcolemma. Then just like any other cell, there is the cytoplasm, and this cytoplasm present in the muscle cell is called the sarcoplasm. Also, there is another very important structure, endoplasmic reticulum, found in the muscle fiber, and that is called the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and it serves as a storehouse of calcium ions. So, once again, little more in details. Other than the previous details what we have learned, it is unbranched, elongated and multinucleated with striations, and we know the reason why striations, because of the arrangement of the actin and myosin filaments. Besides that, we have to know other parts. The plasma membrane surrounding the muscle fibers called the sarcolemma, the cytoplasm is called the sarcoplasm, and the endoplasmic reticulum, which stores the calcium ions, is known as the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Very, very important to in context to the sliding filament theory. So, let us get started with a video clip. Muscle contraction. Here is the muscle fiber with that particular region called the sarcomere, which forms the structural unit of contraction. The actin filaments slide past the myosin filament. The myosin filaments are static, whereas it is the actin that slide past the myosin, thereby the Z lines comes closer together, which means the sarcomere shrinks, whereas during relaxation the actin filaments move out or slide out such that the Z lines move apart. The CNS sends an impulse which passes through the sarcolemma to the sarcoplasm, and finally the sarcoplasmic reticulum releases the calcium. This calcium binds to the troponin of the tropomyosin, and thereby the troponin gets displaced and the active sites on the tropomyosin is exposed. Now, on the myosin head, you can see the myosin head, the ATP hydrolyzes to ADP and P, and the energy released is stored in the head. This energy is utilized for fitting into the active sites. The myosin binds to the active sites to form cross bridges, and utilizing this energy, it pulls. See, there is a pulling of the actin filaments towards the center of the A band by the myosin. So, it is only the actin that is sliding over the myosin. Now, with the arrival of the new ATP binding on the myosin head, the cross bridges breaks. Cross bridges are broken, and now the ATP again does its work. It hydrolyzes to form ADP and P, and the energy that is released is stored in the myosin head. This energy is utilized to fit into the exposed sites on the actin, and ADP and the P, the products of hydrolysis, are released. Cross bridges pulls the actin, a new ATP binds, and the cycle of events continues. So, this is how the actin filaments slide over the myosin filaments. So, the theory that explains explains the contraction, the widely accepted theory is the sliding filament theory, which states that contraction is a result of the sliding of the actin filaments over the myosin filaments. And remember, it is initiated by an impulse propagated or sent from the CNS. An impulse is sent from the CNS to the neuromuscular junction. And when it reaches the neuromuscular junction, and the neuron that propagates this is a motor neuron. So if I replace it, you can see the nerve endings on the neuromuscular junction. It releases the neurotransmitters called acetylcholine, which initiates an action potential, and this action potential first propagates, see if I am showing it on this, first propagates through the sarcolemma, then it enters the sarcoplasm and finally reaches the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which releases the calcium ions and then starts off the events. I hope you have understood sliding filament theory, but before starting off with the sliding filament theory, it is mandatory to explain the structure of a single muscle fiber in context to sarcolemma, sarcoplasm and sarcoplasmic reticulum. Next, it is mandatory to mention how an impulse is initiated or propagated to the muscle fiber, that is from the CNS through a motor neuron. It reaches the neuromuscular junction. When it releases the neurotransmitters, it triggers an action potential. So, it is understood that the impulse has reached and then it propagates from the sarcolemma, it spreads to the sarcoplasm and then to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which releases the calcium. And then we are going into zooming into the details which we saw in the video, what happens accordingly at the actin and how the cross bridges are formed. I hope you have understood this video. Though it is crisp and short, it is very, very important.